Oedipus at Colonus. So, the events of Oedipus at Colonus occur after the events of the famous play Oedipus Rex, where due to a sort of the prophecy from when he's a child, Oedipus uh, is sort of destined to kill his father and sleep with his mother. And so, during the events of the first play, sort of the prophecy comes true. Oedipus kind of goes through life, not knowing, being oblivious, da 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 da. Then one day he accidentally kills his father, and as a result, he eventually goes to the kingdom of Thebes and marries his and has children with his mother. So the events of Oedipus at Colonus occur after that, where Oedipus has, for his crime, and for his great sin of not only patricide but incest, has been cast out from Thebes. He has been kind of, you know, for a while, Creon took power of Thebes and then sort of just kept Oedipus. He didn't really do anything and let him live in Thebes, kind of as a, like a sort of kind of like a squatter outlaw, until he is an old man, and then he's cast out from Thebes, and he is forced to go, and he makes his way to this place called Colonus, a small hamlet kind of outside of Athens. And so Oedipus goes there, accompanied by his daughter Antigone, who has been taking care of him. He's blind, he is old, and he's frail. Eventually, he goes to a place, which he goes onto the stone, where he's approached by a villager who asks him to leave because this place is sort of sacred, to the Furies. And then Oedipus is like, "Oh my gosh!" He's like, "Then this is where sort of I must lay now," because he was originally prophesied by to sort of come to a place sacred to the Furies and die. And so initially they tell him, go away, blah blah blah. We don't want you here. And then he basically Oedipus is like, well, I feel like I should be here. You can't just kick me out, guys. Come on, like Zeus's law, like um, you know, and so that's kind of what happens. And so they're like, you know what? We're gonna go get our big boss, Theseus, because this place is under the jurisdiction of the Athenian government. And so Theseus comes. Theseus is this sort of magical kind of. He's like the hero of Athens. He's the mascot of Athens, like the LeBron of Athens. And so he comes to see Oedipus, and Oedipus sort of pleads them. He's like, "Look, I need to stay here. I can't go back to Thebes. I have nowhere to go. What am I to do? Da 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 da." Right? And so Theseus basically says, "Okay, we here at Athens, we are hospitable. You're allowed to stay." And this kind of Athens being this place of safety and hospitality is kind of echoed throughout all Greek mythology. Medea comes to Athens when she is sort of outcast and she comes to sort of stay in Athens, as well as many other characters who come to Athens. I'm saying with and like Hercules as well. Lots of these characters come to Athens as this kind of as a place of salvation, and healing and a refuge. And so Oedipus is allowed to stay, taken care by his daughter Antigone, and he meets up with his other daughter when he hears of his arrival. Ismene comes to meet him, and they kind of talk, blah blah blah, and she brings the horrible news that while Oedipus has been gone from Thebes, what has gone on is that so Creon has remained in power, but his sons, Oedipus's sons, Eteocles and Polynices, have attempted to challenge him for the throne, which hasn't been going very good. And they're kind of infighting and blah 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 blah. And then, Oedipus just kind of, he's just like, oh man, my sons are just, they're failures. These two kids are horrible. I can't stand these guys. Because what had happened was Polynices originally he had taken power after, and then he had sort of made Oedipus kind of leave. He'd been really horrible to Oedipus, and Oedipus is just kind of like, you know what, I'm done with these guys. My daughters. He basically sort of says at one point, he's like, my daughters are my sons. You two, my sons are not my sons because you do not do sort of stuff that makes you worthy of a son. My daughters are more sons than you are. And so, that kind of happens. And then what happens is Creon comes into town. Creon comes to Colonus. And he's like, Oedipus, you're coming home with me. You're coming back home to Thebes. Don't, well, don't bother these guys in Colonus, right? You're wasting their time, blah, blah, blah. You're wasting my time. And Oedipus is like, well, I've already taken refuge here. I'm not going back to Thebes. Like this is my destiny. Also, you're probably going to treat me horribly. And so, yeah. So he's like, I'm not going. And so Creon says, that's fine. I'll take your daughters. And that's what he does. He's like, okay, well, I'm just going to kidnap your daughters. Well, let's see if you want to come back to Thebes now. And obviously, that's quite good motivation. And Oedipus, but at this point, he's old, he's blind, he can't really do anything. And so he's like, oh, oh God, what do I like? I can't. And then Theseus comes to the rescue. Theseus, he's like, I, I as your protector, I am the mascot I am the LeBron of Athens. Like I will bring your daughters back. No one in Athens gets this horrible treatment. No one's just gonna get kidnapped under my watch. And so he goes back to Creon with a band of men and he brings back the daughters. And so, that's what happens. Um, and so after what that happens, they find out that Eteocles has sort of displaced Creon, and now so the infighting is finished. He's displaced, and then Polynices has come back to he's come to Colonus, escaping Thebes, seeking refuge. And so Oedipus is kind of like, he's talking to him. He's like, how you been? Blah blah blah. And Polynices is like, I've been so good to you, Dad. Like, you need to help me out. You need to be more nice to me. And Oedipus is kind of just like, nah, like you are a horrible person, Polynices. Like you are absolutely terrible. I do not like you. Go back. I like do not care if you die because you are a failure of a son. And so, that's that. And that's basically what happens. And so after that, what kind of happens is that after this so there's after that there's sort of this thunderstorm that kind of starts happening. Which Oedipus is like, he sees it as a sign, he's like, okay, well, it's my time to go. And he kind of starts getting he starts get ready, he kind of he tells Theseus, he's like, okay, well now's my time, I'm ready to die. He has his daughters clean him. And in this lightning storm, this thunderstorm, Oedipus kind of then after this disappears in a flash. He does, there's no sort of kind of way, they don't really specify how he dies, but he just kind of does. And then we finish kind of looking at all that is left is Antigone and Ismene, and they're like, this is horrible. Like, you know, the chorus tells, they say that, oh, Oedipus is dead. Um, and yeah, they're really sad. And Antigone is like, I need to see I need to see him dead. I need to see his grave. I need to see I need to see him again. This is awful. And they're kind of like, they just say like, no, you can't see him. That's you can't do that anymore. And that's kind of the end of that. It's a short play, but that's basically it. And after that, what happens is Antigone basically goes back and asks to go back to Thebes because what has happened after is that um Creon takes back power and what happens is both her brothers get killed. But while Eteocles is kind of, he's martyred, he's become a hero. He dies. He gets this glorious burial. Polynices gets nothing, and that sets up the events for the next play in the series, Antigone, where Antigone demands a proper burial for her brother. That's a story for another video. Like and subscribe if you enjoy this one, and I might make the next one. Yeah.